Nearly 3 years on, CD Projekt has patched a lot of holes in Cyberpunk 2077, but the two-pronged edition of its 2.0 update and Phantom Liberty DLC suggests it still isn't quite at one with itself. Indeed, while the free booster aims at increasing your ability to express yourself in its open world, conversely, the paid-for episode is compact, intimate, and concerned with events behind closed doors. Yet because it's a standalone product, with no requirement to fit around the full game's lofty, plein-air ambitions, Phantom Liberty gains genuine freedom. Piggybacking on the groundwork of fiction already in place, it focuses on delivering a pulsating plotline and hits its mark. Billed as a spy thriller, Phantom Liberty yanks protagonist V into the orbit of the new USA government and the FIA, sort of FBI-CIA mashup. An agent known as Songbird initiates contact remotely, apparently with the president aboard a jet that's about to crash into Dogtown, a no-go enclave of Night City. Their plight triggers a retrieval mission reminiscent of Escape from New York. But the story soon pivots into Technobond and Mission Impossible territory as your goals expand in partnership with another agent, Solomon Reed, and instantly recognizable Idris Elba. In the process, Phantom Liberty becomes a markedly more glamorous venture than that of working with street fixers, or Johnny Silverhand, who sulks from the sidelines as V gets sucked deeper in. If Phantom Liberty is a blockbuster spy movie, though, it's one in which the scenes between the action matter most. Sure, there are pounding set pieces, not least an early tussle with an enormous chimera spider robot. But more excitement bubbles up in high-stakes conversations. A scene in a basement sharing intel with Reed and a third agent, Alex plotting our next move over wireframe our blueprints, is already quietly thrilling. Then that next move is to infiltrate an exclusive party atop a high-rise, where with ulterior motives we sidle into a game of roulette. From there, we attend a meeting in disguise as our Mark's expected guest, complete with their face, voice, and personality. The main game's exceptional portrayal of dialogue scenes pays off even more handsomely in such clandestine operations. The simple invitation to take a seat before talking, pulling the face of your interlocutor right up close, is so subtly revolutionary we hope other developers haven't failed to take note. Likewise, in pausing to mark the pleasantries of a handshake or the offer of a drink, CD Projekt underlines their value in texturing its characters. That detail extends into body language too. In a side quest, security officers Paco and Babs ask V to help them out of a bind they've got into. As Paco speaks, we note Babs' leg shaking nervously. If these touches help us empathize with Dogtown's denizens, that goes double for the game's stars, Reed, Alex, Songbird, making it all the more complicated when loyalties become divided. By now we know that every story and personality in a CD Projekt game has two sides, while for every decent offer there's a counter-offer. Yet even as we come to expect dilemmas, they land because they chime with our competing desires to see the good in people without being a sucker. They also chime with the capitalist nihilism that defines so much of Cyberpunk. These are zero-sum outcomes. One side wins, another loses. Fairness rarely features. The dilapidated Dogtown is a minor revelation in reinforcing such ideas too. Visibly free of the corporate noise and spectacle of Night City's centers, it feels less desperately edgy as an artistic creation, as if 2077 matures a little within its confines. Quietly expressive in its architectural contrasts, it cedes center stage to personal stories, conjuring very cyberpunk musings about humanity and identity in the face of social ruin and invasive technology. And that's a relief, since when the game does serve up more overt social critique, it continues to taste like cold GTA leftovers. That the new plot brings up questions of loyalty to your country feels especially anachronistic, as if Cynic V would care. As for how the new and improved systems meld with Phantom Liberty, they do in the sense that they continue to provide a power fantasy in tune with your role as a super spy. Our Netrunner build is in danger of giving us a god complex here, as we fry enemy synapses without lifting a finger and clear areas of guards via the comfort of a hacked camera feed. Such caution becomes superfluous, in fact, with a new perk that uses health items automatically. When one mission requires us to intimidate a target by going disguised as a Colombian assassin, Colombia lazily characterized as a land of cartels, we wonder why we couldn't go as ourselves. Entertaining though the power trip is, however, it remains the antithesis of an RPG that asks you to fully consider your build and how best to deploy its traits. Once you've found your favored groove, there's little to nudge you out of a one-size-fits-all approach to the range of combat and stealth scenarios. Chiefly, that's because the game's AI and logic haven't kept pace with other upgrades. Enemies lack smarts, walking towards you in the line of fire, rarely using grenades to force you out of cover. Close combat is still basic. Violence stirred outdoors leads to chain reactions of erratic behavior, yet caught in the thick of Phantom Liberty's spy game intrigue, it's easy to see all that as the rest of the game's problem. Few focused action-adventure games spin a yarn as well as CD Projekt does here, likely keeping you uncertain about your choices to the end. That the adventure is hosted within the richly detailed Night City can be treated as a mere fascinating detail, if that's how you want to play it. Your first task, if you start 2.0 with an active character, is to reassign all your perk points, since the ability trees in 2077 have undergone a considerable overhaul. One branch of the intelligence attribute, for instance, leads to an ability called Overclock that lets you keep plying enemies with quick hacks, even when RAM is depleted, while another focuses on queuing hacks with increasing speed and efficacy. To make room, many basic stat buffs have been shunted off to a series of skill progression bars that fill as you dispatch enemies in your preferred style. Phantom Liberty, meanwhile, enables additional relic powers such as cloaking and a brutal leaping mantis blade attack. While you may never actually need any of this, it makes for a fantastic selection of build choices. Loading up our most recent manual save, V materializes standing on a dirt road in Dogtown. So it goes. Cyberpunk 2077's 2.0 update has made notable improvements to its vehicle systems, adding new functionality and tweaked behavioral routines, but still often stumbles into absurdity. Partly, that's down to suboptimal AI and technical quirks that make you ponder if the game still has the ghosts of 1.0 in its shell. Parking our vehicle in the road, for instance, causes traffic to back up behind it for minutes, until one brave driver attempts to swerve around and smashes into an oncoming truck, causing the rest to scatter like startled pigeons, reversing into barriers and pedestrians as they try to straighten out the mess. A new wanted rating system, meanwhile, pulls inept cops into our orbit who struggle to keep up with our moderate horsepower and have a habit of cancelling themselves mid-chase. Seconds after we've shot up a squad car, police radio announces the situation has been resolved. Even if such kinks can be ironed out, though, perhaps by 3.0, it may be a case of tinkering around the edges of a fundamental antagonism. GTA games are by name and nature built on car crime and cop pursuits. Their cities are made for racing, chasing, and crashing. Many of their missions encourage vehicular mayhem that embraces unplanned eruptions of the ridiculous. Conversely, 2077's soul is in the seedy intimacy of alleyways and bars, where the streets find a use for things. Night City's highways spread from those locales like tendrils, adding texture and connective tissue ever more impressively with each update, but they remain the veins of this world, not its vital organs. Riding shotgun with Reed in Phantom Liberty, they give us an opportunity to really soak in the surroundings. However, the action belongs elsewhere. Equally, it's difficult to imagine how CD Projekt Red could seamlessly integrate driving into its wondrous creation, as such activity in open-world games almost invariably lends itself to farce. More realistic vehicle impacts might curb the comic excesses, but would see many chases terminate abruptly and fatally, especially given the way we drive. We have to be grateful that 2077's cars bounce off barriers and other vehicles at anything short of head-on clashes, and that even the latter only dent the car rather than write it off. But the knock-on effect of such generosity is that it ill fits an RPG that largely steers clear of hedonistic slapstick violence. CD Projekt Red may well understand its predicament, given that Phantom Liberty's Dogtown, a debris-strewn ghetto with few roads of note, hardly places its updated traffic systems in the limelight. A fresh series of side jobs for fixer Muammar Reyes does more in this respect, as you steal cars, then escape from pursuers, taking advantage of V's new ability to shoot while driving. Yet the latter option feels more like a tick-box feature than a game-changer, because you have to take your eyes off the road or slow to a crawl to fire with precision. Ultimately then, both developer and audience might simply have to accept the contradictions of 2077's world. The open roads are crucial to bringing Night City to life, and cars the necessary means to see the sights, but it remains a Truman Show set, not a playground. Disrupt its flow, and it often comes to a screeching halt.